This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Take this woman as your lawful wedded wife.
Ooh, yeah! Oh,
no. Place the ring on her finger and repeat after me. With this ring, I thee wed.
Hello and welcome to episode 5 of With This Ring. I'm Ryan Everett.
I'm Cindy Everett.
And today, when we're actually recording this, will be topical. It might not be topical when this airs, but we are looking at Survivor Series.
It's topical because we're recording it on Survivor Series Eve, or Eve.
Eve, yes.
NXT War Games
yes.
Eve.
We're the first of 4 nights in Chicago, and I will be attending 2 of the nights. Cindy will be...
I will be attending NXT War Games.
Yes. So
looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think it should be good. It's 2 War Games matches, so that'll take up the bulk of the event. A bunch of cage matches. All right, so Survivor Series. Before we got into this, what did you know about it?
Really nothing.
Nothing?
I feel like of all the majors, SummerSlam, WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, this is one I definitely had the least exposure to.
Yeah.
It's also maybe the least intuitive concept. I mean, Royal Rumble makes sense. I feel like this one you had explained to me more than once before I kind of figured out exactly what was going on, especially with War Games. It was a little bit more elaborate.
Yeah, well, War Games, like we talked with War Games, that's just something they've started doing in the last 3 years now for NXT only.
Okay.
So Survivor Series itself, so there was WrestleMania, obviously.
Right.
That's the first one. And then in 1987... Jim Crockett Promotions, which eventually became WCW, kind of was WCW at that point, but eventually they'd become the... But they decided, hey, WWF's doing all this business with pay-per-views. We should get in on that. And their biggest show, they started in 1983 having Starrcade on Thanksgiving night. And they do it in Greensboro. That was like their hub. And then they'd also... Eventually, in 1985, they did half in Greensboro, half in Atlanta.
Why was it on Thanksgiving?
That was like Christmas, Thanksgiving, those New Year's were like big days for wrestling back then. Like people would eat.
It's kind of depressing.
I think people would eat dinner at like 2 in the afternoon and then go out to the wrestling shows. So 1987, they decided we're going to get into the pay-per-view business. We're going to do it with our biggest show, Starrcade, and we're going to do it on Thanksgiving. And to show that we're a national promotion, we're not going to do it in our faithful home of Greensboro where we always sell out. We're going to go to Chicago.
Oh.
So they did it in Chicago, which the fans were different in Chicago.
But what year was this again?
1987.
87.
This was This was the first time they tried to do it on pay-per-view.
Gotcha.
So the fans in Chicago were different than in Greensboro, and they actually cheered for like Ric Flair and also Vince McMahon heard they were doing this and went to the cable companies and said, "I just created my own November pay-per-view called Survivor Series, and if you air Starrcade, you won't be able to air WrestleMania."
Oh.
So
cold-hearted businessman.
So Starrcade WCW was like, well, okay, we'll move the start time to 2 p.m.
On Thanksgiving?
Oh,
that's terrible.
And then like the pay-per-view companies were like, oh, this is great. We'll have 2 to 5 for Starrcade and then like 7 to 10 for Survivor Series. Vince McMahon was like, no. If you carry Starrcade at all.
Wow.
So eventually like out of, I think it was like about 10% of the cable companies in America decided to carry Starrcade.
Oh, wow.
So they did not do well at all carrying it.
Yeah, that was my first question I had in my notes, was who came up with this concept? So was Vince McMahon?
Well,
Or he was the one that just
he was the one, they kind of, earlier in 87, they had started doing like 3-on-3 elimination tag matches. And I think they just kind of were trying to figure out what to do with it eventually. And they needed, because back then pay-per-views really needed like a hook outside of WrestleMania. And even then it was like all these big matches that led to it. So this was kind of a way to get everyone involved.
Gotcha.
And they have a cohesive idea.
Mm-hmm.
And this is coming off WrestleMania 3. And this was the first time Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan would lock horns since then.
Okay, because they weren't in the Survivor Series, but they still...
Well, they were in the main event.
Right. The main event of that event.
Right.
That was redundant? Okay.
Yes. So, the first match we watched was, we went to the first show itself, 1987, and most of the matches were 5-on-5.
This one was a lot of guys.
Yes,
10 on 10.
This is 10 on 10.
That was a lot of people.
It was, and they didn't really understand how to work the camera yet, so there's about 3 eliminations, you can't even really see what's going on.
Right, especially since there's so many of them. They basically line the entire ring.
Yes. So it's the British Bulldogs, the Killer Bees, the Fabulous Rougeaus, Strike Force, and the Young Stallions, with your boyfriend Paul Roma.
Yeah.
Against...
Got to get a good view of his posterior.
The Bolsheviks, Demolition, the Dream Team, the Hart Foundation, and the Islanders. And everyone on the heel team had a manager, so that was even 5 more guys that would be down there. And the face team, as you pointed out, were completely in sequins.
Oh, yeah.
Except for Strike Force, the tag champs themselves, who came out with their sweet windbreakers.
Right, yeah. I don't think they had an official name, so I put Sequence versus Bad Guys.
Yeah, that would be, that's correct. And it went 37 minutes, the longest match on the card.
How long was it? Sorry.
37 minutes.
37 minutes, okay.
And, yeah, I mean, a lot of quick eliminations, and like Smash from Demolition, they were like the new hot team. So he ends up getting disqualified by the ref for throwing him across the ring.
That's right.
So that kind of keeps their aura up. It doesn't hurt them at all, because it just shows that they care about beating people up more than anything.
Right, and this is also the Bolsheviks got eliminated pretty much right away.
Right, yeah, they go out a minute and a half into the match. And because they were by far the lowest rung tag team, especially on the heel side.
Is there a formula to it? Like it's the lowest rung heel?
Usually it is kind of like...
Because I noticed...
the low heel, the low face.
Yeah.
But actually this match, it's kind of funny because the Killer Bees and Young Stallions, who end up being the survivors, they're kind of like... out of the faces, they'd probably be the lowest and second lowest, really, at this time, especially. Because, yeah, I mean, maybe the Rougeaus are right there, because the Bulldogs were former tag champs, and Strike Force were the tag champs at the time. So those were the 2 highest for sure. And Strike Force and the Killer Bees were pretty low on the rung. But I guess they just kind of wanted to give off the shock that anyone could win these matches.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting too that they had almost like they had 2 winner teams basically instead of letting one team.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think in this show, the first match had 3 survivors. The second match had 2 survivors, and this had 2 survivors. Technically, 2 teams.
Yeah.
And then the final match had 1 survivor.
Okay.
Andre the Giant.
Makes sense.
But then he got attacked by Hulk Hogan because the show had to end with Hulk Hogan posing, obviously.
Right. Wouldn't be the 80s without...
Of course not. Hogan Must Pose. That's another podcast makes T-shirts for that.
Oh, nice.
Because that's what Vince McMahon would always say at the end of shows. No matter how it ends, Hogan must pose.
Oh, interesting. So your funeral is Hogan going to come out and pose?
Of course. Well, yeah, I mean, he must.
That's how it ends. Probably at Vince McMahon's funeral.
Yes, I'm sure that, Vince McMahon will outlive us all.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
So did this match take place?
Oh, it took place at the Richfield Coliseum in Richfield, Ohio.
Yes.
Which no one really knows where that is. It's
suburban Cleveland, as Jesse the Body Ventura
Yeah, it's in kind of no man's land between Cleveland and Akron. Wikipedia said it was stationed there because on good weather, 5 million Ohioans could get there within an hour. So they're trying to kind of be a little strategically placed. However, it wasn't really close to like a major intersection. There was just one kind of 2-lane road that went in and out. I went there for Disney on Ice, I think, with Girl Scouts back in the day, so I don't really remember the logistics. But Larry Bird did say that it was his favorite arena to play in.
Oh,
so that he didn't say why, or article I read didn't say why, but
and the Cavs were kind of good then, so it's not like because he won every game that he played there. Maybe he did. I don't know what. I would think. So it's not like by an airport or anything.
No, it's not really by anything.
Because like Allstate Arena is always kind of weird in Chicago. Because it's in suburban Chicago, but then you realize it's right next to O'Hare Airport, so it makes sense travel-wise.
Right, no, yeah, it wasn't really close to anything. There was one of those things where they were trying to like put it in the middle, and it ended up really not serving either
Not
market.
serving anyone.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, that's Cleveland municipal planning for you, it seems. A lot of stuff.
Right, that's our motto. Let's go right in the middle, and it'll make anybody happy.
So real quick, looking at these teams, just first glance, or some of these it's a second or third glance of them. The Bolsheviks, what did you think of them?
I barely remember them.
All right, they're the Russian
I know,
team.
I know.
They were saying
they were out first, so
yeah,
and honestly, I think I had my notes.
National anthem.
Right, and I had my notes too. There was a lot of teams that I had only seen for the first time.
Right.
That was my first time seeing the Bolsheviks, the Killer Bees, the Stallions, the Rougeaus. So it just, maybe for me, it didn't really relate to it.
Right.
And
Yeah, I mean,
it was really chaotic too. You could kind of tell it was the first one.
And this was a change for a lot. Like the Rougeaus soon turned heel, like as pretty boy heels, instead of what they were kind of here, just like faceless good guys.
Right.
And then Demolition eventually would, within 6 months, be the tag champs and be like the top of the heap. Strike Force were the tag champs here, and they'd lose to Demolition at WrestleMania. The Dream Team was Greg Valentine and Dino Bravo. They would break up like, this was probably their last match as a tag team.
Okay. Yeah,
And then
that was
both
my
of
first time seeing them too.
Both of those guys would be singles wrestlers. The Greg Valentine actually...
See the Hammer?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was an IC champ for a long time earlier in the 80s, and then he kind of got a renewed push after this. So he's actually going to pop up in some of my matches in singles action before this. And then the Hart Foundation.
Right, and I had seen them.
You know of them because of
the Total Divas.
Natalia crying about Jim Neidhart. And before Jim Neidhart died, she made it seem like Bret Hart was her dad.
A little bit, yeah.
And then Tama, the Islanders.
And Haku.
Yeah, Haku.
Yeah, I remember Haku from the other match that we watched, but I'd never seen the other guy.
Yeah, Tama was... He started when he was like 20 in the WWF, and he was only 22 or 23
He did
here.
look really young, yeah.
And he like was positioned to be big, but he had those demons that they always talk about in the wrestling business.
What do you mean?
Like drugs and stuff.
Oh, okay.
And that kind of halted his push. But of course, Jesse Ventura comes up big here with the racism about the South.
Oh yeah,
these South Pacific boys, they grow
heads.
Yeah,
that was
they're stronger.
Bad.
Here, I got it. I actually wrote that down because it's always one of my favorite. Jesse,
you do quote that a lot. This was airing today on.
They got the South Sea Island boys. They got stamina, they got strength, and they got hard heads.
Yep. Yeah.
And also, I wrote that you mentioned a few times that Paul Roma had a good ass.
I did mention that a couple of times. He did.
Yes, and I'm sure if you asked Paul Roma, he would agree because he's very complimentary of himself. Thinks he had a much bigger stand in the WWF than most people
I
would
didn't like him for his wrestling talent, so But no, I think that's pretty much all I had to say. I didn't really understand the part at the end with the masks.
Yeah, so it was
a little like the whole thing was just a little weird.
It worked kind of better when they would do it in a regular tag match, where the ref wouldn't notice that the illegal guy came in, because at the very last 30 seconds of the match, they would both put the mask on. So then the illegal guy would come in and pin the other guy.
Like, what's the point? If it's still one guy in there, does it matter?
Well, it's the illegal person.
Okay.
So you didn't tag in legally. You can't technically legally pin the guy.
Yeah, but I mean, all these matches, like everyone runs in. Actually, this one, was there a big run in?
Not
I don't think
really.
so. There's too many people to be around.
Yeah, the Survivor Series, it's kind of weird until maybe it's like the end. There's not a lot of guys. There could be 4 guys standing on the ringside, but they won't come in to break up another guy's pin, which is just kind of, it's one of those things that just becomes a rule because to help the match work the way it's supposed to.
Gotcha. Okay, so where does this rank for you?
Looking where I have it, I think.
So you already have like your preliminary?
No, just I have it at 9 out of 10, so that'll be like probably top 50, maybe right around like the number 50 spot, right around the middle spot, because then they had a match the same match the next year, and it's basically the same people. There's like 3 teams that switch in and out, but it's kind of the 88 one. I think is revered more, but I think this is actually better than this one. Oh. So this will make it 88. Probably might make it towards the very end.
Okay. Yeah, we don't watch the 88 one.
No.
Second, I don't know what you're talking about.
The 88 one, it's good, but then the end is like a lot of storyline stuff. So I figured this was better just to nuts and bolts. Yeah,
kind of got the gist of it. It's really different pace because they're tapping in and out really fast. There's really short sequences. It took me a little bit of time to get used to. I think for this week, this might go kind of near the bottom.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense because then the next 3 Survivor Series matches we skipped all the way from 1987 to 2001.
Yep.
Now, I don't want you to get the wrong idea. 1988, 1989, and 1990 Survivor Series are 3 of my favorite all-time cards.
Okay.
But, like, I could sit and watch those over most of the things that we watched, but none of the matches are really that great on them. It's all kind of like...
So why is it your favorite?
Because it's just so nostalgic.
Okay.
Like, I know I've...
Like the reason why I watched like Troop Beverly Hills and like other bad movies.
Right, yeah, exactly. That's why we'll be watching plenty of bad movies on Disney Plus.
Oh man, yeah, like all like like bed knobs and broomsticks.
I still think that's something you made up, but
you found it on there.
Well, you can find plenty of stuff on there. Right. It doesn't mean it's real.
Okay, that's fair.
But anyways, we skip ahead to 2001. Team WWF versus Team Alliance.
AKA like WCW.
And ECW.
Yeah, yes. Kind of the outsiders.
And so it's Team WWF is Chris Jericho, The Big Show, Kane, The Rock, and The Undertaker against the Alliance, Booker T, Rob Van Dam, and that basically ends it for people who actually came in during this time, and then Shane McMahon, Kurt Angle, and Stone Cold Steve Austin. So this was the end of a storyline that for so long looked like the easiest thing to do. You have... Like, for years in the 90s, it was like, oh, if they ever could do WCW versus WWF. And then Vince McMahon bought WCW, and it didn't work out that way. It was just such a botched angle from the get-go. And the whole thing was, and it continues really to this day, when they bring someone in, they always have them lose to start so that they don't like think too big of themselves. And they did that here, but that just kind of... So already coming in, WCW had the stink of being the losers.
Right.
And then they come in and lose all their big matches. And the only reason they win any matches eventually is because Steve Austin defects to them. So it was kind of a mess, but it makes up for it with having this match.
Okay.
And I will say this is the best Survivor Series match ever.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yes. I think just, especially, the beginning's fun, where they have everyone does their finisher to Big Show to get him out. Then everyone does their finisher to Shane McMahon to kill him.
Right. Yeah, Shane was annoying.
Yeah. He kept, every time someone would get an advantage, he'd come in and run in.
Yeah. I know that was the point of him to be annoying, but he succeeded.
Yeah.
So, I didn't like how Undertaker had like a different entrance and Steve Austin had different music.
Steve Austin's music
had a weird feel to it.
Yeah, and this is Biker Taker period.
Yep.
So it's different for sure. I thought it's good to have that every once in a while. Like, he changed up his look after 10 years, so he had enough time,
fair,
and it was, but Steve Austin's music change, that was bad. That was one of the things that, like, you don't need to change everyone's music all the time, and they thought they needed to. So, like I said, Big Show and Shane go out right away. Then it's Kane and Undertaker. Then it's RVD and Booker. And then I think where it gets really great is when you basically have a tag team match between Jericho and The Rock against Kurt Angle and Steve Austin for really the last, it's basically the last 20 minutes. It's those four guys.
Yeah, I kind of feel like other than that first one, these kind of thinned out. I mean, they got rid of the scrubs relatively quickly.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, these were all, like, Kane, Undertaker, Booker, and Rob Van Dam were, like, just on the cusp of the main event. And then Big Show and Shane weren't really
they're kind of filler people.
Yeah.
I liked all of Rod Van Dam's little flips. Very acrobatic.
Yes. And then...
Was he a gymnast in his former career or something?
I don't think he was I think he just kind of always knew that being athletic was a way that he could stand out.
Yeah. Well, it worked.
Yeah.
Although I will say when we watched the next one, like, I saw a lot of the same moves.
Yeah. Yeah.
So his repertoire was relatively limited.
That's the problem with him. The first time you see him, you think he's great, and then it's diminishing returns.
Yeah. But this one, I like Paul Heyman's commentary.
Yeah,
on this one, he was really funny.
Paul Heyman commentary is great. Especially unfortunately, this is the last night him and JR would do commentary together because he gets fired the next night because he was part of the Alliance.
Got it.
And Jerry Lawler made his comeback. And
great.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's the downfall
of commentary.
Commentary, really. But yeah, I think, especially like I said, the last 20 minutes, it's surprising because Kurt Angle gets eliminated first, so Steve Austin has to go it alone. And even though he's the heel, he stands in there and fights and eliminates Chris Jericho.
Yep.
And then towards the end, he actually has The Rock beaten, but he already attacked the ref. And then Kurt Angle comes out and hits Austin with the belt, and then The Rock gets the win. And of course, as any show should end, and ends with Vince celebrating.
Right. Yeah.
Top of the ramp.
Yeah, this is also the one where the Undertaker had someone in every corner, and he was like ping-ponging off of all of them.
He had
I like that part.
Clotheslines to every corner.
But no, this one was pretty good. A lot more cohesive than the last one. It's still pretty fast-paced. I don't know if I ever really got fully used to it changing over so much, but I think when they got the scrubs out and just, having four people wrestle for 20 minutes is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot more digestible.
Yeah. And the Greensboro Coliseum, super interesting stuff about it. It's part of a complex of 8 different venues, so they rattled off the different venues, and one of them they said is a museum. And I was like, well, what museum is it? Unfortunately, it wasn't that exciting, but do you want to take a guess?
Is it the WCW museum?
No, is there such a thing?
No, but if there was, that would be there. It would be there, or
I know what you said.
In the CNN Center, I guess, in Atlanta.
Is the ACC Hall of Champions?
Oh, okay.
Is any school in Greensboro even in the ACC anymore?
I don't know of any schools in Greensboro, but
I'm sure there's like a UNC Greensboro, but they would not be.
Yeah, but North Carolina, Duke, Virginia.
I think Notre Dame in the ACC for basketball.
For basketball. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's kind of like
it's around
in the middle of a lot of them.
So they just kind of decided.
So it's kind of like a central point.
But that's like the Richfield Coliseum problem, though. It's like you're really not serving any of your markets. You're just floating out.
Well, I'm sure, there's probably North Carolina and Duke fans that live in Greensboro.
Right,
so
that's true.
They could go there and... Yeah, I don't know how far it is from those two schools. I know they're very close together.
Right.
Raleigh and Durham. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right.
Anyways, that's...
So for me, I have this 9.8 out of 10.
Oh, wow.
It's going to be in my top 25, I think. Like I said, best Survivor Series match. And I mean, for one thing, the last 10 minutes is Austin Rock. Right. As I've already said, those two together are always going to be high for me no matter what situation it is. So, yeah, I think it's deserving of its place.
Good.
And next we go to 2003.
Yep. American Airlines Arena in Dallas.
Yes.
There's a weird starting thing between Eric Bischoff and Mark Cuban because
Yes.
it's Dallas. So
Because it's Dallas, so
you need Mark Cuban.
Eric Bischoff comes out and yells at Mark Cuban, and then Randy Orton, who had just started his Legend Killer phase, comes out and gives an RKO to Mark Cuban and claims that he killed the legend of Mark Cuban, or killed legendary owner Mark Cuban, who that might be.
That's a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah, well,
I mean, even now, I say he's even more popular now with Shark Tank and
right, yeah,
all those other
yeah.
shows.
Right now, he's just kind of like the loudmouth owner of the Mavericks.
Was he really like a personality back then? I don't know.
He kind of, yeah. In the early 2000s, like in sports, he definitely was.
Oh, okay.
No, like
Which is why when I was
like I didn't follow the NBA that closely by that point, but I knew who he was.
Okay.
He'd have articles in Sports Illustrated and stuff written about him. They made
kind of
him
the hot
known.
young thing.
Yeah, he was kind of a known person.
Gotcha.
So the reason behind this, Steve Austin retired at WrestleMania 19
That's right.
in March, and Eric Bischoff fired him, but then they hired Steve Austin back as the co-GM with Eric Bischoff. So they were
Very interesting HR policies. At this company.
it's a mess, and the person who did that is now the head of the small business cabinet. Well, actually, she's off of that now.
Oh, she is?
And she's like one of the heads of the re-election campaign.
Oh, great.
But anyways,
let's not
get into there.
Yeah.
And so anyways, so Steve Austin is hired. So him and Eric Bischoff are co-running Raw at the time. But then Steve Austin has a problem where he likes to stun everyone. And
it's a problem?
According to Linda McMahon, Steve, you can't just go around and kicking everybody's ass. So they pass a law that he can't do anything.
They pass a law.
Well, they pass a rule, a law, an amendment, I don't know, that Steve Austin can't attack anyone unless he's physically provoked.
It sounds like you're like on the playground and like you're arguing with your friends. And you just keep making up rules as you go along.
Yeah, well, that's they write a show every week, so
that's true.
So a couple of the heels, mainly like Chris Jericho's the main heel, like that would always like try and goad Austin into attacking him, and Austin couldn't do it because he knew. So they make up this match where it's Team Bischoff, which is Chris Jericho, Christian, Mark Henry, Randy Orton, and Scott Steiner against Team Austin, which is Booker T, the Dudley Boys, Rob Van Dam, and Shawn Michaels.
That's right. It was Team Austin, but Austin wasn't fighting.
Right. He wasn't fighting. And Team Bischoff, obviously Eric Bischoff isn't wrestling.
No.
And if Team Bischoff won, Steve Austin was fired. And if Team Austin won, the amendment about him being able to attack anyone unprovoked was waived, so he could just beat the hell out of it. They said we could get the old Stone Cold back, which meant he just attacked everyone. So the match starts, and it's pretty. I think this is one kind of like the 2001 one, but even more so. Like it's fine to start, and then once it gets down to 3-on-1 is when it really.
And I think I made a comment too that one Shawn Michaels is worth 3 Edges and Christians and who there was Chris
Jericho, Randy Orton, and Christian. Those are
Christian kind of.
Yeah, I mean at this point he wasn't. He had just lost the Intercontinental title, so he was still kind of.
Yeah, but this one in the 2014, it was almost like the same thing. It's like you got down to 3-on-1, and then you know the 3 isn't going to win. You know there's going to be a little bit more.
Well, the 3 ended up winning.
Well, I mean, it wasn't like
it wasn't going to be all three of them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant.
Yeah, but I mean,
all 3 of them winning.
I think it kind of shows though, like how that's a lazy trope, but it's an effective trope also.
Right, the underdog.
Yeah, the underdog coming back from behind, and this one it's so right away. Jericho throws Michaels into the post, and he's not only is he down 3-by-1,
really
he is
bloody.
He really cut himself.
Yeah,
deep.
I didn't care for that.
He is, so he's busted open, but then especially it works with Shawn Michaels. I think, better than anyone because his move, the super kick, just could come out of nowhere.
Right.
And, like, I think on both times he hits it, he just, like, falls on top of the guy and gets the win. Eliminates Christian and then Chris
bleeds
Jericho.
all over everybody.
He bleeds all over everyone.
That's his finisher.
Yeah, that's his finisher. They all bleed all over you.
Get blood.
It's okay, though. He was reformed at this point, so it's not like he had to worry about any sort of...
the Jesus fish?
In the pre-match, in the video package they show, he has the Jesus fish, and then when he comes out, he's just wearing a straight-up crucifix that says HBK.
Crucifix or a cross?
Well, a cross.
Yeah,
but
I was going to say.
the shirt is a cross.
Gotcha.
It says HBK.
Across from where?
Yes. Across from the back of his shirt.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, this though, I didn't like the ending. There is a lot of people. Yeah, a lot of shenanigans. This is when Batista like shows up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So I didn't understand. Once again, not having the same amount of context as you.
So
I was just kind of like,
this
what?
time it was the very start of Evolution, which was the group of Triple H, Ric Flair, Orton, and Batista. As we saw,
one of these is not like the other, with Ric Flair being about.
Well, he was like the manager.
Gotcha. Oh, that makes more sense.
I mean, he wrestled also, but he was more so the manager. And it was like Triple H was the present, Ric Flair was the past, and Batista and Orton were the future. They kind of evolution.
Oh, okay.
They had a great Motorhead song.
Really?
Yeah. Well, Motorhead's great at wrestling.
I'll have
wrestling
to.
theme songs.
I'm sure I've heard it, but
yeah,
I'm not a big Motorhead fan.
Well, you'd be surprised. And then, so that was kind of like, and Batista they started the group in January, and then both Orton and Batista got injured, probably because they were a little chemically enhanced to the gills.
A little chemically enhanced.
And so this was really Batista's like comeback, where he like kind of put himself back on the map, and Orton had come back and had started doing his Legend Killer gimmick, which would eventually lead to him becoming like a made man.
And one of those memes come out of him with his RKO.
RKO out of nowhere. I think it was like 2014 or 13.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because I remember watching him in St. Louis with your brothers.
Oh, okay.
So that was 14. And that's kind of, we'll get to it in a bit, 2014 Survivor Series. I thought it was stupid that they didn't have Brock Lesnar versus Randy Orton at the time, because it was in St. Louis, which is where Orton's from. And it was probably like as well-known main cult, like, it was like on SportsCenter and stuff, like
really
the RKO out of nowhere memes. So I think that was a missed step. But anyways, so this one, I have this at 9.5.
Okay.
I think it'll be like 40s, 40s, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I didn't have a ton of notes on it, but I did enjoy it. I did kind of do a little bit of the American Airlines Arena.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to get this wrong, so I'm just going to refresh myself. So they installed the wrong glass in the bathrooms when it first opened, so the exterior walls, the glass is too see-through. So people driving down. Yeah, I don't know if it was the stalls, just the bathroom. But it said many who drove by the arena complained that they had a clear view into the restrooms. So that's not. I don't know why no one noticed that when they were cleaning it. But I guess no one's in the building, and if you're using the glass that you think you're supposed to use.
But why would you have glass that's even like semi-transparent for the bathroom?
I feel like it's natural light. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
the bathroom.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
I could see it like in the main.
Yeah,
hallways.
I'm guessing like arenas that I'm familiar with. I've never really thought about the bathroom positioning, but it's usually among like the interior walls.
I'm thinking of like the United Center.
Like all the arenas in Chicago or the ones that I've been to, it's always been on the interior, not the exterior walls.
Right.
But
or at the very least, there's like ramps next. Like I'm thinking of where the Sox play, and the bathrooms like kind of face out, but there's a huge concrete ramp and stuff between that and. Well, you can't even see traffic from the stadium, but
parking lots. You could be flashing all over it in the White Sox bathrooms.
Well, yes,
but they fixed it.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, and American Airlines has the naming rights to 2 arenas. There's the one in Miami.
Miami, right? Yeah.
And I think it was the Mavericks were playing the Heat one year in the NBA Finals.
The first year of
it was 2007.
No, 2010 or 11.
So it was the American Airlines series. That's not very interesting. but that's what it was called. It's true. It's not a fun fact, it's a fact.
And before we go on, we're going to take a quick pause to just remind you of all the great shows on the PTBN wrestling feed. Plenty of great content for you on both of our podcast feeds here at Place to Be Nation.
We have plenty of great content for you right here on the Place to Be Nation wrestling feed, including
the Place to Be podcast, the mothership of the PTBN, where co-hosts JT Rosero and Scott Criscolo take you chronologically through the history of WWE.
PTBN Main Event with hosts Scott Criscolo, Nate Milton, and Steve Weil, breaking down all of the current events in the world of wrestling.
The Wrestling War Zone podcast looking at the Monday Night Wars, brought to you by JT Rosero and Chad Campbell.
Row 1, Seat 1, an interesting look inside the world of small-town wrestling and beyond, and beyond, with host Ben Zanny welcoming in a variety of guests each week.
Then we have Talkin' WCW heads to Center Stage, where Tim Cable, Greg Phillips, and Jennifer Smith look at the legendary promotion from WCW, looking at certain wrestlers and 3 of their matches each edition.
I think we combined. Extreme Three-Way Dance takes you back on a trek through the land of extreme with JT Rosero, John D'Amato, and Jennifer Smith.
Body Press Your Luck, a brand new wrestling game trivia show hosted by JT Rosero and Jordan Duncan.
With This Ring, in which husband and wife Ryan and Cindy Everett discuss specific matches in their respective fandoms.
We probably don't have to read that
that's
part.
Nice. That's us.
You Don't Know Billy Jack, where Drew Wardlaw and his friend Jordan watch and discuss some of the greatest pro wrestling matches of all time through the eyes of a non-wrestling fan, in search of a universal connection and pro wrestling storytelling. Kind of sounds familiar.
Similar, yeah. Plus, monthly WWE pay-per-view reaction shows and semi-regular shows like Jenny and the Gems, No Holds Barred, Adam's Division, Special Relations, and Jeff Learns Wrestling.
Also be sure to check out the PTBN Pop feed, littered with great content, offering tremendous shows like the Hard Traveling Fanboys, The Year in Pop, Laugh-In Theater, DC4U, Marvel Age, the Brother and Sister Rewatch podcast, and much more. Subscribe today.
And while you're at it, subscribe to Jennifer Smith's The Jenny Position feed as well, as it is the new home of Geek and Sassy, Talkin' Pop, Freak Out Drivin', Tellin' Stories, MCU Journey, The Infinity, and more.
And on our social media pages, make sure you look at the Greatest Sitcom of All Time tournament. It is now underway. We are in round 1. There will be 4 matchups per day, so make sure to like our tournament on Facebook or follow us on Twitter. You don't want to miss a single one. Or actually just sign up on both so you could vote 2 times for your favorite show.
Is that what you've been doing?
Yes. Yeah.
What show have you been voting for?
Well, I mean...
Each round.
Each round is a different show, yeah.
Yes, I've been noticing that as well. And we have officially kicked off our 2020 stretch project, determining the greatest WCW match ever. Oh, you have all year to do research, promote matches, and build your list. Conversation and rules can be found at www.facebook.com/GWCW matches or on the Pro Wrestling Only message board.
And coming later this year, that is how With This Ring will continue. We will eventually turn it into WCW matches, and hope you enjoy that. And thank you very much. And let's go on with the show. Next, we go to 2014 in St. Louis at the Scott Trade Center. And it is, again, a Survivor match with big implications.
Oh, yeah? What are the stakes here?
Well, actually, I don't remember what it was for the... other... Okay, I do. So it was Team Cena versus Team Authority, which is Triple H and Stephanie, and of course they're not in the match.
Oh yeah, they just kind of were pouting on the sidelines.
Yeah, which really, I mean, Triple H's own fault. Like, he puts Kane on the team, and Mark Henry on the team, but not himself.
Yeah, I think he could have done a better job than Kane.
Yeah.
And Mark Henry was eliminated, like, how many seconds in?
46 seconds officially.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So Team Cena, the stipulation was if they lost, everyone but John Cena would get fired because the Authority, like, in a smart little
There's so many elaborate rules.
Well, but no, it made sense because Triple H and Stephanie were like, we're not going to fire you, John, because you make money for us.
Oh,
it's everyone else. And that's kind of like what, even in like 98 when it was Austin versus McMahon, McMahon would point out, like, I'm not going to fire Steve Austin because he makes me money, but I don't want him to be champion.
Right.
So it's always kind of like, it's always good when they've overused heel authority people way too much.
Well,
but it's good when they at least give internal logic to why, if they're feuding with someone, why they don't just fire them.
right. Yeah, you need logical consistency.
Right. Like, it makes sense if at least in a throwaway line, be like, you sell a lot of t-shirts, so I'm not going to fire you, but I'm going to have you be the opening match every show.
Yeah.
So Team Cena is the Big Show, Dolph Ziggler, Eric Rowan, and by far his highest profile ever, John Cena and Ryback, another guy who's getting pushed very highly here, versus Team Authority, which is Kane, Luke Harper, Mark Henry, Rusev, and Seth Rollins. Mm-hmm. And of course, Team Authority has with them Jamie Noble, Joey Mercury, J&J Security.
Right, yes.
Lana.
I knew their first names.
Stephanie McMahon and Triple H.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in this one, too.
Yes, a lot of people involved.
People around.
I was a big fan of the very beginning where Mark Henry charges in and Big Show just punches him, and that's it for him.
That was it. Yeah, there's a lot of choke slams, kind of that one point. Not a lot of, and all these moves, actually no, this one I did not a lot of aerial moves. I think all the big guys.
I think kind
pretty
of
grounded.
Seth Rollins is kind of like the only
Yeah, he was the only one really getting up there.
And then Rusev does my favorite move in wrestling, the fat guy running across multiple announce tables and splashing into no one.
That is your favorite move.
To just eliminate himself. He gets counted out because of that. And then, in a kind of a weird move.
This was weird, yeah.
It's 3-on-3, and Big Show decides
I'm out.
It's looking very bad, and just punches John Cena to eliminate him, and then walks out himself to eliminate himself, and it becomes 3-on-1
with Dolph Ziggler.
Dolph Ziggler against.
And they kind of explained it because basically Big Show would have lost his job if their team lost.
Yeah, so
they thinly explained it.
They did, but it's kind of like because he gets eliminated. Why did he go through with the match for 25 minutes? And it was when they're tied 3-3. It's not like
they're waiting for the highest drama moment to do it.
True. Yeah, I mean, I know why they did it like that,
yeah.
But the way they did it seems kind of odd. And then, so Dolph Ziggler fights his hardest and is able to eliminate Kane because Kane's like 45 here and sucks.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's.
Then gets the flash pin on Luke Harper. And then him and Seth Rollins are going at it. The referee gets knocked out, of course.
Mm-hmm. And this is another thing where it was like 3-on-1. I'm like, okay, Dolph Ziggler is going to hang in a little bit longer.
Right, yeah. Yeah, you knew it wasn't just going to be Kane comes in, choke slams him, and that's the end of the match.
Right. I would be very disappointed.
Yes, I think most people would be. And then Triple H comes out and comes in the ring and hits the pedigree on Seth Rollins, and then calls out his own personal referee to count 3, and the lights go out, and to someone like you, Sting's music hit, and that meant
nothing.
I
know. I wrote in my notes. Ryan says this is a big deal because a guy showed up. It wasn't Sting from the band.
No.
It wasn't Sting from the police.
No, it was not.
Had a lot of face paint on, and
it was. So actually,
what was your reaction when you saw it the first time?
I kind of knew something was going to happen, and he had just been announced as being like the secret guy in the video game that year, and that's when that started being like a way to figure out what guy is going to come back soon. Like the year before was the Ultimate Warrior, and then he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. This year it was Sting, and Ultimate Warrior and Sting actually broke in together as a tag team.
Oh.
And then they went their separate ways, but even like in the late 80s, early 90s, Sting was basically the Ultimate Warrior in WCW. Like,
gotcha. Yes,
muscled up, face paint. At the time, he had like a blonde crew cut.
Oh, I'm gonna look up a picture of him.
Yeah, put Sting like.
I don't think I've ever. I can't really picture him. I honestly don't think I've ever seen him wrestle in a match.
Because Sting from like 1997 on is like the Crow Sting, but.
Yeah, all the images that. Oh, he's from Omaha, Nebraska.
Oh. Yeah, like this.
Oh, it's a video. Oh, he looks kind of familiar.
Yeah, I'm sure he was on probably in the background of a match. Because I watched a lot of him versus Vader after Vader died.
No.
So maybe you were in the room for one of those.
Potentially. Is he still alive?
Yeah, he's still alive. He still shows. I think actually.
That flat top's pretty
I think he has a meet and greet in the Hyatt in Rosemont tomorrow.
Oh,
Actually,
interesting.
I don't think we'll be able to make it, but if you really wanted to meet Sting,
I really don't need to, but I'm sure he'll draw a good crowd.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, especially because I think this will be a big weekend for them in Chicago, and there's a lot of ancillary things going on.
Yeah, I didn't write down the name of the company, but I was telling you one time when I was looking up all the facts for these arenas that every time I would Google Scottrade or Dallas American Airlines, it's the same name, but almost all of them have changed names over the years. So before they were called Scottrade, the naming rights were bought by some sexy internet startup in 2000. So of course, rather than paying the St. Louis Blues in cash, what did they pay them in?
Bitcoin? Stock?
Bitcoin would be the 2019 version of this story. The 2000 story was, yes, they paid in stock. That was worth $9 at the time. What happened a year later to that stock?
It went to $2.
65 cents.
Okay. So that was
and the St. Louis Blues lost about $700,000 in that deal.
Yep, that sounds about right.
So yeah, very much a story, very much in the zeitgeist of the early 2000s tech bubble, giving everyone stock, and then it basically being worth next to nothing.
Going down.
So they renegotiated and became the Scottrade Arena in 2006.
Yes. But now they're Enterprise?
Enterprise Arena, yeah.
Gotcha.
So I'm not quite sure how those contracts are structured, but they seem to kind of keep upping it every year. Yeah.
And then we had actually been at the Scottrade Center about a month
before this
for a Hawks Blues game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember it being nice.
It was
a decent arena.
Yeah, it was fine. I mean,
most
arenas are kind of just what they are. That kind of arena is pretty ho-hum, I think. You notice the bad ones and the good ones, but the medium ones
all blend together.
So that's it for our Survivor Series matches. Mm-hmm. And this one I would put pretty much on par with the 2003 one, I think.
Okay, yeah.
They'll probably be within 5 spots of each other. When I realize I got to rank those 2 Survivor Series matches, I'll kind of both put them in and then see what's around them if I'm going to separate them too much.
I liked this one a lot, actually. I thought it was good action, good pace, no blood.
Yeah, no blood for you.
No craziness at the end.
And then our last match, we went to NXT, back to Houston, but not at the Astrodome.
Nope, at the Toyota Center.
For some reason, the internet is not working. Wikipedia is not working. That's all right, though. So
you can know enough of this from memory.
Yeah, so it was the first ever War Games match in WWE under the NXT banner.
So there were War Games before, it's not at NXT, or?
No, there were War Games in WCW.
Oh,
never
that's
in
right,
WWF.
that's right. We talked about this, how Paul Ellery was a part of War Games.
Right, yeah. So, there had been, since the last takeover right before SummerSlam, there had been this group of 9 guys, always feuding 3 shows in a row on NXT. I knew with these guys feuding. So eventually, William Regal got pissed off, came out and said, we're going to face each other, and it's going to be War Games. And it just showed up on the back Titantron, and the crowd went crazy. And so with War Games, the big thing is 2 rings.
Yep.
1 cage covering both of them.
It's always 2 rings, right?
Yes.
All War Games? Okay.
And then, so usually it's 2 teams of 4 or 5, depending on the feud itself, basically.
Gotcha.
And 2 guys start out. There's a coin toss, which the heels always win. The guy from the heel team goes in. Usually 2 minutes passes. Another guy for the face team comes in, and they alternate in and out until all the guys are in, and then the match beyond begins.
It's called the match beyond.
And then
Why?
because that's the match beyond the
Beyond
first
the
half of the match, and that's when
You can start winning.
you could win. And
basically, yeah.
in WCW, it was only submission,
Oh, okay.
but then WWE changed it to pinfall or submission, which I think actually kind of works a little better, just because a lot of guys don't have a submission move, and like it kind of sometimes it was kind
I
of
didn't think of that. Yeah, their
sometimes
finisher
it was
could be
kind
a
of
pinfall. Yeah. Oh,
like
very good.
sometimes in WCW they would just do where they would just be beating the shit out of the guy until he finally like called it.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that's not as dramatic.
Yeah. So here it's the Undisputed Era of Adam Cole.
Baby.
Thank you. Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish against the Authors of Pain and Roderick Strong.
Do they not have enough like trios that kind of take
Kind
these
of, yeah. Like
duos
Roderick
and
Strong
put 'em
had
in?
been feuding with the Undisputed Era because they were all kind of like the same. They were in Ring of Honor, which was like a smaller promotion, and had been together then. So they kind of just made it seem like, well, obviously Roderick Strong is going to join them. But then he went against them, and the Authors of Pain had a feud with them because they cost them the tag titles. So it was kind of like just the enemy of my enemy.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And then against Sanity,
That's right.
Eric Young, Killian Dane, and
Oh, I had insanity. There's sanity,
just Sanity.
but they're not sane.
Well, yeah, but that's kind of the thing, I
Oh.
guess.
I think it makes more sense to call it insanity. I'm gonna leave it in my notes as insanity.
And
It
I
doesn't
think
matter anyways.
of all the guys in it, Killian Dane, the big fat guy,
He did the best job.
I think he was, yeah, I would say he was the standout performer of the
Absolutely.
match.
The big chubby guy in the kilt.
Yep. He was all
I would
over the
agree with
place.
that, yeah.
He does a coast-to-coast drop kick from one side of the ring to
That's
the other.
right, yeah.
And
He
he's
has
the
two
guy
guys
who
on him
really...
Tosses both of them off of him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he's the guy who also like kind of started throwing all the weapons in the ring.
Yep. There was
start.
a lot of junk in the ring. There was
Yeah.
chairs, tables, there's some chains, a garbage can,
I think,
a kendo stick showed
yeah,
up.
kendo sticks. Alexander Wolf was the other Sanity guy. He came in with a nightstick in his
That's right,
coat.
yeah.
And eventually he got, I think he gives a superplex, he gives a German suplex off the top through a table and
That's right.
like takes a divot out the top of his head.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that was bad.
Yeah, even like 5 minutes later you see the table
You
and
see
it's
a
just a
huge
huge pool of blood on
Ugh,
it.
yeah.
And of course they had made the extra rule that if you left the ring, your team would forfeit. So this poor guy couldn't even leave. He's in the one ring while everyone else is in the other ring going at
the
it.
doctor's
And
trying
the doctor's like trying
it
to
out.
fix him up through the cage,
That was pretty funny.
which
yeah.
is just sometimes
So
you
is
gotta
that
do
still
that.
a rule now? You can't leave the cage
think
or
so.
for medical reasons? Did they
No,
get
I
rid of
think
that
they
rule?
wouldn't do that because it kind of is hard because there's the one door only.
Right.
So you'd have to have either the cage go up, which wouldn't work,
You
or
could have shibbied over the top. But I
Yeah.
guess if you're bleeding, you don't want to.
which is also kind of a thing that, like, I know why they have the top off the cage, but in the actual War Games matches, there was always a cage on top.
Oh, okay.
But here, like,
There's an open.
there was an opening because they do the superplex off the top.
That was crazy. I
Yeah.
was like, I cannot believe that Adam Cole did that. I was like
Yeah.
cringing watching him do that.
I mean, he does it on everyone, though, so it's a pretty safe.
Still, would you do that?
No, I mean, I'm very unathletic, though. The next, at the
Who would you
2000,
just jump off a cliff that height?
if it was at a safe landing, yeah.
Really?
Like, I've jumped off my garage on the snow.
That's true.
I mean,
I think it's higher than your garage.
yeah.
It's definitely higher than your garage.
Well, to the top of the cage to the ring, though, I don't know.
That's true.
I
don't
mean,
know.
they always say it's a 15-foot high cage, but it's probably like
They exaggerate.
from the bottom of the ring, from the ring level to the top of the cage is probably about 10 feet, maybe.
Still pretty high.
It's high, yeah, and it's. I
and I'm
mean,
looking at our
you're
floor
not
to
falling
ceiling.
onto snow.
Right, I'm looking at our floor to ceiling height now, and
Yeah,
I still wouldn't do it. I still.
this is only
Impressed.
like 8 feet. Or no, it's probably 10.
This is probably 10 foot.
Yeah.
It's a thrilling conversation about the height of
height of our,
our walls.
This is always great for an audio medium.
Right.
But, well, like, at the last year's War Games, Ricochet does a dive, like, by himself, like, onto most of the crowd also,
Yeah,
of
that's.
people.
Yeah. Really taking a lot of risks there. but-
Yes, yes. So in the very end, it kind of breaks down into. So the thing here, like with each team goes in at a time. I didn't like that. I like it more when it's one from each.
Yeah.
Because then like
This like sped it up a little bit.
it
at
did,
least.
yeah,
Kept it moving.
yeah. It does keep it moving.
But yeah, it was an interesting concept how
Yeah, like really, the Undisputed Era should have just won because they had 3 guys in there to start, so they should have been able to take everyone out as they came in. But of course, that never works.
That sounds good in theory.
Yeah.
But actually, and this is one arena that still had the same name. I didn't get redirected to another Wikipedia page. It's where the Rockets play.
Okay. Yeah.
And for whatever reason, it didn't really, once again, not a lot of, Wikipedia doesn't really explain everything, and I didn't have time to look at the source. But the Rockets owner didn't want to have people walk up to their seats. Like usually every arena you go in, you have to go up a big ramp or a big elevator. So this is one of the arenas that are sunk into the ground, so people can just walk onto the streets.
Cool.
So it's 32 feet below sea level is where it starts.
Wow.
And they had to excavate over 30,000 cubic yards of dirt, basically to build an arena-shaped hole in the ground.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah, I got you.
If you're going to sink a 20,000 person arena, just, amount of
that makes sense.
area it has to displace, So
It's kind of cool.
the big house is like that in Michigan.
I know
that's the only one that
it's
I've
gone
been to.
now, but the ballpark in Arlington, I think, where the Rangers played was kind of like
it's
that.
like a sunk. Really?
I think it was or maybe the new one. No, I think the new one that they're building
It's going to be a sunken one?
It's going to be sunken because the reason they're building a new one is because it's so friggin' hot, but they're still not making it a dome, which is so stupid.
Yeah,
It's going to be hot in Dallas in the summer no matter
how
low you are.
Being that much further away from the sun isn't going to make a difference.
Building a big glass roof would do it, but no, we can't do that.
Yeah, I don't know. But I liked this one. I'm kind of glad we watched this one. So now when we go to War Games tomorrow,
Yes, I would agree.
A little bit of more context and just being thrown in.
And I think that's kind of, I gave this a 9.7.
Oh, okay.
But I think I'm going to hold off saying where it will go until I watch tomorrow's. Because
you think that's going to be that good?
Well, no, I just think it's good to really rank it. You got to see how it ranks against the other War Games matches. I think it's better than last year's. Because last year's was like 50 minutes. It's just too long.
Oh, that is really long.
Like
50,
they have
5-0?
Yeah, like they have it's 8 guys. So and they do it's 4-on-4. So 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. So like at 28 minutes or so, everyone's in. Then it goes like another 20 minutes almost, which is too long.
Yeah,
like
long.
In WCW when they did it, it would always end like within 5 minutes of everyone being in.
A little gassy there?
A little bit. Because it was kind of like, it's such a brutal match that
gotcha.
Once everyone's in, it's like almost over.
Gotcha.
And that's kind of, I think, where NXT sometimes they have their matches go a little too long and kind of try to make it too epic.
Gotcha.
When it doesn't need to be. But yeah, I think this was a really good first shot at it. And it's very much WWE making it their own type of match at the same time as paying homage to
the old format.
Yeah,
WCW. Well, yeah, they mentioned that a couple times. That Paul Ellery was in the first War Games.
In the first one, and they show Goldust and Arn Anderson before the match starts.
Yeah.
And Dusty Rhodes obviously created it, so.
Oh, obviously, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he created everything.
How was you supposed to know?
I don't know.
Obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
Duh, everyone knows that.
He created everything in WCW, basically.
Okay, well, a lot of people don't know what a lot of people don't even know what WCW is. So.
Well, I can't help those people.
Not people listening to this podcast, obviously, but the world at large.
Yes. Well, they're at a loss for that. Okay, so. These 5 matches, how would you?
Yeah, I was just doing that. You can probably tell. I think my least favorite's probably the first one.
Okay. Yeah.
Just didn't really relate to a lot of the guys, and the format just kind of still working the kinks out. After that, I have to put the bloody one.
The 03?
The 03 one, just because I don't like all the blood. I thought Batista showing up, once again, not really knowing the whole story, but even if I did, I thought that was I don't like that kind of BS ending where
Yeah.
one person who wasn't even involved in the match comes out and medals.
Although the one thing I do have to add to that, I did like, why it will actually be a little above 14, is I like the aftermath where Austin comes out and Shawn Michaels is like all bloody and sorrowful, and Austin just like pats him on the back, which is something he actually shows mercy,
Compassion,
which he
yeah.
never does. And then he drinks beer and stuns the coach and
That's
his
right. That was the
security team. But I think it was good to show like Steve Austin like having compassion and growing as a character.
one. And then, I don't know, the other three I think were all pretty close. What did I have? So I think the number 3 I put War Games, not because
Okay.
I didn't dislike it.
Yeah, just
But
out of those
yeah,
three.
out of those 3 I put War Games. The second one, the Greensboro Coliseum one. I liked Paul Heyman's commentary. Shane was a little much, but I like that one. And then I definitely think the Scott Trade Arena one was my favorite.
Yeah, that was really good.
It was really good. Although Big Show taking himself out was a little weird, but you're kind of right. I think I definitely got more interested when it got down to Ziggler
right.
versus
And just that it was
Kane
Ziggler.
Rollins
Because,
move.
like,
Yeah, I
if you
like
had
that
asked me
Ziggler.
before, I was like, who's are going to be the last 2 guys? Oh, John Cena and Seth Rollins.
right.
But they actually changed it up that way.
Yeah, I thought that was good.
Like, having Big Show eliminate Cena was so much better than having him eliminate Ziggler.
Right. So that's my order.
And then we actually, less than a week later, saw Dolph Ziggler drop the puck at
that's
the
right.
Lake Erie Monsters game. The
Yep,
minor league Cleveland
Yep. Yeah.
hockey team.
Actually, I don't think we're gonna go to a game this year.
That's all right. I don't know if Dolph Ziggler would be involved. So
Really? Is
Oh.
he too popular now?
no, he probably would be, but
If he was home, they would call him
Yeah.
up and he would go do it.
it'll be either him or the Miz.
It is
probably.
exactly what I was gonna say. Whoever's home for Thanksgiving gets to drop the puck.
Yes.
I
All
forgot
right.
about that.
Yes, that was always a big selling point on getting me to come to
So the minor league
Cleveland
hockey
for Thanksgiving.
seems Dolph Ziggler for 2 minutes.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so good. This was a good week.
So you like Survivor Series?
I don't know if I need to watch it in excess, but I appreciate it now, I guess.
Okay.
Like I said, I think I'm glad we watched it leading up to it. So for War Games, we kind of
Yes.
know what
Got
to
a
think going
little
in.
growth. Yeah.
But yeah, and like I said, this is definitely the main event that I had the least exposure to.
Yeah.
So
And next, we're going to do, kind of going back on what we did beforehand, we're going to do WrestleMania.
Before and afters.
Yeah, so now we'll do WrestleMania matches, and then the next week we'll do their rematches.
Oh.
So it'll be the flip of that, which will
Gotcha.
kind of be the flip on the more famous match will come first.
The more famous, but is it the better match?
Is it the better? Well, I'll give you a spoiler that my number 1 match is one of the matches we'll be watching
Okay.
in the next
Now I'll
week.
have to try and guess and see which one it is. So.
All right.
All
And
right.
will you continue to take this ring with me and continue this journey?
Yes, I will.
All right. Sounds great. All right. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
All right.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Place to Be Nations, JT Rosero and Chad Campbell here. We want to let you know that we have over 24 podcasts available on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and PlaceToBeNation.com. We now offer them to you on 2 great feeds. On the Place to Be Nation Wrestling feed, we dive into topics running the gamut from today's WWE to the glory days of yesteryear and the ins and outs of the territory days. In addition to our full-length shows, we also deliver to you special pod blasts on topics old and new.
The Place to Be Nation Pop Feed is a veritable treasure trove of great content. Offer tremendous shows covering the land of movies, television, life, comics, and sports, brought to you by the most knowledgeable and insightful folks in the podcast world.
You can find all these great shows, plus archives of our past podcasts from over the past 8 years as well by subscribing to both feeds on iTunes. And while you're there, be sure to rate and leave feedback as well. All of these shows, plus others, available on PlaceToBeNation.com, where we cover pro wrestling, sports, movies, comics, plus in-depth stretch projects, and much more. Be sure to support our site by using www.PlaceToBeNation.com/Amazon when doing your online shopping. We want to thank our friends at Boneheads Wing Bar, ProWrestlingOnly.com, and TheHistoryOfWrestling.com as well. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr. PlayStation.com, the only place to be in your pop